was eight, 9, around that sort of age.
Well, I was exposed to gambling from a very young age, so it's a very common thing within my family. Things like bingo and cards and stuff like that, and obviously you have your pokies and your TAB, which came later in life for me, but following my grandmother and aunties and mostly the ladies in my life.
1990 was the year, I think.
I remember my first bet was in 2000. It was on the 2000 Melbourne Cup, and Dad put the bet on for me. I was 15, and it was Brew to win, and it won.
Oh, I started gambling from at a young age. I come from a family of really social gamblers, and I saw their gambling and I was fascinated by it.
When I was at schools, it was there was the Melbourne Cup sweepstakes, especially in primary school as well. It was such a big thing. Classes were stopped to watch the race that stops the nation, and that was so true. And then that was carried on through high school, but it wasn't until sort of longer after I left high school that it really did become more prevalent in my life.
So 1990 would have been 45, so 45 to 53 roughly.
So yeah, following them to card games and backyard bingo out in the bush, what they play, and just being exposed to that at an early age. That was my first exposure to gambling.
Predominantly horses. There was a period where I played a lot of blackjack at the casino as well. But yeah, no, anything with anything I used to jay, anything with a heartbeat. Yeah.
I had grandparents who might have a bet on a Saturday. Same with my father. My mum might go to bingo. We might get a raffle ticket if we're down the main street to support ambulance. But I loved it. It did something for me that it doesn't do for most people.
It's always been there subconsciously, I think, from a very young age. Yeah.
Going way back, when the drinking age was 21 in Queensland and 18 in New South Wales, we used to slip across the border, and there were poker machines, the old one-arm bandit type poker machines, so that was where I first sort of played with them way back when I was under 21.
Yeah, Dad just brought me up with hard work and punishment, and used to take me out stealing at a very young age. And gambling was a big thing because my dad used to race greyhounds as well.
So I was a single mum. I had been separated from my husband for a year when I met this man, and it was a really fast-moving relationship. So I just got swept up in the whole somebody loving me and professing, that they couldn't live without me or whatever. And so very quickly we went from just dating to moving in together and buying a house together. I already had a home that my little boy and I lived in. And
so I would go to the greyhound track and put on bets. He even signed me up to get a greyhound license at a very young age. Like, I think you had to be 18 to get one, so I was 15, and the old, they call them the pan liquors or something like that.
My partner and I bought a house together, but was in his name, using my house as equity. So you can kind of tell how that's going to go now. And when we started living together, it was really difficult to keep track of where his money was going. So he was earning probably about triple what I was, but there was never enough money for the home loan, and money would just be leaking from his bank account, and I had no idea why. I really didn't. So it took quite a long time for me to figure out exactly what was happening.
Yeah, couldn't wait to get out of it because I just hated it, and had an opportunity to run one day, and I took that opportunity and ran away from home.
The triggers, well, I will gamble whether I'm mad, bad, glad or sad.
Emotions.
so down emotions. A few years ago I lost my grandfather, and he was a very important person in my life, and that's where my gambling addiction started to become a lot stronger. I used poker machines as a distraction. So something about those little flashing lights bouncing up and down, they were a distraction for me at first. But then as time went on, I gained the addiction for wanting more money.
I was still living as a stay-at-home son into my 20s, and I came home from work and I heard my mother and father having a conversation as I was about to walk in the door, and I was just coming up the steps and my mum said, "Wonder what mood he's going to be in today." Well, I just did a 180 degree turn and said to myself, if I'm going to be in trouble, I might as well get in trouble. And off I went and gambled. And so even when I'm indifferent, I can be just triggered by that littlest thing, and my solution is to go and gamble.
Well, I guess growing up I was exposed to learning about money and what money can do, and having a lot of money can do.
I already was triggered by what gambling does for problem gamblers, because I felt anxious a lot of the time from a young age, and when I was around my grandparents or my parents or any of their social gambling, I didn't feel that way that I felt most of the time. So I made an immediate connection for me with gambling that it made me feel better.
After I turned 18 and onwards is when I started to develop, obviously, because I was legal then to attend venues that had more extensive gambling, like poker machines and TAB, horse betting. So yeah, later on in my adult years is when that developed.
One of my earliest memories for me was going to a school fete with my pocket money and being told by both my parents, this is all the money you have for today, so make sure you spend it wisely. Not long after that, I got to a boys and girls lucky dip barrel, and they told me there was one great prize in there. Well, I emptied out my pocket money completely, having as many goes as I could to try and win the good prize that was in the boys' barrel. It was at that event that I also started telling my first lies associated with gambling. As in, I went back to both my father, who was away from my mother, and said, "Oh, look, I've done my pocket money, can I get an advance?" And he gave me an advance, and then I found Mum somewhere else and said, "Look, I've done my pocket money, can I get an advance?" So the manipulation started straight away for me at that young age.
I look back at it now and I look at my life in the way I was raised. The best way to cope was you just fly off the handle. You just, that's how you could get your own way. Just being like, any pressure, you just lose it. And that's how I was raised. And so that's all you know. And so you don't communicate, there's no deep conversation with anyone. And so
it was scary because we were relying on me to support all of us, basically. And that's what made it the hardest, was the fact that I couldn't understand why I was paying all of the bills and I was feeding us and keeping the electricity and the water turned on, and yet I was the one who was working 30 hours a week.
You just don't know how to keep relationships. You don't have those life skills, communication skills and parenting skills. Like when my son was born, it was like the first time I held a baby. And I just didn't know what to do.
I haven't told this story, but rock bottom was probably when I ended up breaking my own ribs to try and get to the hospital to have somewhere to stay for a couple of days. That was, inflicting that sort of trauma on oneself I thought was normal. That was my rational mind at the time. Now it's totally irrational.
It was probably well into my 20s. Up till then, I thought I was just unlucky. I just thought, all I got to do is have the big win and I'll change all this misfortune that's going on in my life. I didn't actually think it was a problem. And it took a long time for me to really get to that point, because I always saw gambling as a solution. And what I came to understand, it was more of a solution to a lot of deeper problems that I had.
I hit rock bottom a few times, and I thought that was it. Probably when Dad died, my father died from cancer a few years ago, and sort of when I had no connection sitting next to him.
I was speaking to someone who said, "It sounds like you've got a terrible gambling problem." And I said, "I have," and I broke down. I just broke down uncontrollably. And the person said, "Well, here's a place that actually has a treatment program for people like you." And I went, "What do you mean, people like me?" And they said, "Well, just ring this place tomorrow." And I got up the next morning and made the decision to make that phone call, and that phone call changed my life.
A few years later, from after that, sort of taking a fair bit of money from a workplace, and then I was arrested, went before the courts, and I thought that was it. That wasn't it. So sort of try to get my life straight, but I couldn't. I didn't know anything apart from gambling. And then Mum had to end up selling the family home due to, I guess, the state that I'd left her in financially, as well as physically. It had taken a toll on her. And this was a home that we were to keep, but she had to sell it to recoup a lot of the stuff that I'd done. And that's when I knew that was the turning point.
We were both really poor communicators, and it was definitely hidden. I would think he had shame about it too. There would be hours of the day that went unaccounted for. You know, I would be waiting with friends somewhere for him to turn up, and he'd be an hour and a half late, and he hasn't been answering his phone, and he hasn't been at work, and nobody would know where he was. And so I think he knew that he had a problem, because if you didn't have a problem with it, if you didn't think that you had a problem, you would be quite open about it. So yeah, I believe he knew.
I didn't know any other way. My identity was the gambler. I didn't have enough self-awareness or belief in myself to be able to stop. Didn't have any confidence. Those things really sort of kept me there, because I didn't have the power to change, or the belief that I could change. Yeah, and, didn't mean I didn't want to stop, but when you know something that's been so ingrained in your life for the best part of a decade, it's very hard to stop. Yeah.
There's shame, so much shame involved in it, and he was quite, a jovial, outgoing person, but also quite a strong personality. So you didn't disagree with him, and it was shameful. I had come from a broken marriage that I had left, and then I've gone into a relationship that my friends had said to me, "It's too fast, Kylie. A man shouldn't tell you that he loves you after 6 weeks. You've got to wait a little bit longer and see how it develops from there." And I was like, no, he loves me, and it's beautiful and wonderful and blah, blah, blah. And then to turn around and say, "Oh no, actually you were right, I made a mistake," was, when you're in a situation where you're not happy at home and you're emotionally under attack at home, you don't then want to go and be vulnerable to people who are also maybe going to attack you. I think when you're hurt or hurting, the last thing you want to hear is "I told you so." And there was going to be a lot of that. And I don't remember really telling anyone the full extent of what was going on. It just was It wasn't, yeah, it was shame. It wasn't embarrassment, it was shame. So, embarrassment is you're feeling about something that you've done, but shame is a feeling about who you are. And I really felt shame that it was me. I hadn't done something bad. I was the stupid one. I nearly lost everything that belonged to my child.
I can't just, aim the light at my family. I am an athlete as well. I play rugby league, and in that world, it's a very big thing as well. My footy mates, a high percentage of them were gamblers and are still gamblers today.
Well, I think it was partly to try and get money. I think that was part of it. I mean, that's why you gamble, is to win money, really. But then there's that deeper root cause that you're looking for satisfaction of some sort, and you're definitely not going to find it with gambling. But that's what you think you find. That's what you're looking for. I think that's why.
And every time I would be at a football game, a football ado, obviously those things were held at a pub, and those machines were always in that place.
As I sit here right now in this spot, I have no regrets, because all the good and the bad in my life had to occur for me to be here in this moment right now. And I've had some ugly happen to me. And yet if all those events had not occurred, I would not be here today.
Oh, those lost years of contact with my kids and being able to be a real father to them, in terms of, oh yes, I can help you out with that, or buying them nice presents and stuff like that.
I was a great stealer of time, because employers would employ me and I wouldn't be there, And so a lot of people associate gambling with the theft of money, and I certainly stole money from family and friends because I never was honest about what the money was for. And so if I'd been honest about the money, what it was for, I would not have had the money from them, and so on.
I couldn't sit next to someone and just have a conversation with them without ulterior motives a lot of the time, or wanting to be elsewhere. So that loss of time has now been found again. You can sit with someone and have a chat and for 2 hours.
I would do whatever it took. But the moral compass is completely gone, and it's like anything. When it's broken the first time, it never heals completely.
And the time I've taken from people as well, it's that would be my biggest regret. And I think just sitting next to Dad as he was dying, and wanting to be anywhere but there. Yeah, that's the time I'll never get back. But now it's you can't look back too much, because going forward, looking back at your past really detracts from your future and what you can achieve. And once you know that you're enough and that you deserve it, it's very powerful.
It's really different. It's challenging. It's very challenging. I bite off way more than I can chew. I just signed a lease to a shop, which totally I've never had a glimpse of having a bit of an anxiety attack for a long time, because I'm like, and maybe because I'm just, don't think things through. I'm a bit of a pioneering person that, hey, we can go and do that. And my wife's a very detailed person, so she has to do all the hard work. They're laughing now. And so that's, I like myself. I'm not down about myself. I think that I want to be a good father, so I do everything with my boys. They've played footy, training, games. I tell them how good they look, how good they are. If I You know, I saw my son running the other day and he's training, and I said, mate, you look like an athlete. And I just really believe that, you know, your kids' eyes should light up as soon as they see you when you walk into your home. You know, that's what I aim for. And and having someone special in your life, like, you know, you get married and you've got a wife that believes in you and brings out the best in you, challenges you. Like my wife, she's so passionate about the poor, you know, the broken, the people that are struggling in life. And she's really good at what she does. She was inspired by Father Riley when she was like 12 years old. So here I am smoking pot at 12 years old, and she's watching a TV program on ABC or something like that about Father Riley, and she's had this stirring from then on that she's going to help street people.
It's a very long corner, and it is so random, although skewed towards the house, obviously.
Well, my advice I would give to someone now is that is the addict taking control. That a big winner's never around the corner. I said those things are set up to take our money, not give us money.
That's an illusion. That you don't win on pokies.
And when you get that mindset of I'm going to win, or one more 50, one more 20, and my win will come. You know, once your pay's all gone and you have nothing left, you know, that's the addict taking control.
I would say, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't judge yourself too harshly, because there are the odds are against you in terms of these machines are designed to lure you.
Communicate. Yeah, I think if you can just zoom out a little bit and think about trying to communicate without too much emotion attached to it, just talk about things rather than you did this, you made me miserable, you ruined my life, to actually say what's happening, how can we deal with it together. That would have to be the first step. But I would say to anybody, there's no shame in any of it.
People who truly are problem gamblers, you know, if you have the opportunity and see this, you don't have to suffer anymore. You don't have to suffer, because that's what gambling is for the problem gambler. It is immense suffering.
And you know, I remember very young going to the races all the time, all my teenage life, going to the races, and my dad giving me money to bet on the dogs, or going up to a bookmaker and saying, can I have 20 on number 6? And it was just, it wasn't something that I wanted to do, because I saw how much it took from who we could have been as a family. We could have had so much, but because of gambling, we were limited what we had and our opportunities.
I know a lot of things can bring the addiction on. Like I said, I know it's very easy because those, you know, things particularly like poker machines, you know, are everywhere in our world. And I know it's very easy to access those and, you know, start feeding money into it like it's nothing. But as we mentioned, you know, you're never going to win. You're never going to win big. And once you have the strength, you know, to look at yourself and admit, you know, I have an addiction and I have a problem, you know, you can beat it, and it is beatable.
If you fall into the trap, be prepared to accept forgiveness of friends and loved ones, and be prepared to forgive yourself, and don't give up. Life is too precious life is too precious to waste.
Don't hold on to your deceit and your lies for any longer than you need to. Don't hold on to don't hold on to something that is essentially poisoning your body. I went saw a mental health nurse and she said, you are poisoning your body. Yeah, don't hold on to that for any longer than you need to.
There's no shame in his addiction because he's got something that he needs help with. And there's no shame in me trying to fix things or to stay or to go or whatever. We're just human beings trying our hardest. But at the time, all you want is somebody to blame about how miserable you are. Yeah.
Gambling overtakes everything. Like, I remember always my dad listening to the races, and I'd have to be really quiet because he'd be going, psst, psst, come on. And he would fly off the handle at me if I disturbed him. And so that took all his interest. And I always remember going down to the TAB. Like, my dad was always there at the TAB, and I remember all the cigarette, the smokes in the ashtrays underneath the tickets, and I used to look for, hopefully I could find a full smoke and go outside and have it while my dad wouldn't know because he'd be in there for hours.
If it's really bad right now, it'll get better. Sometimes you just need to take the breath and do the really hard thing, and then suddenly life gets better.
I'd get them to go to Lifeline, Gambling Help. Their counsellors are really, really good. And so non-judgmental. And look, I thought, I feel ashamed to say this, but I thought these people are going to be like derelicts. I'm going to be going into this place where there's going to be old men in grey coats and with grey beards and so forth. And when I got there, it was an amazing array of people who, from all walks of life. I have actually seen lives back on the straight and narrow. And Gamblers Anonymous is very good too. Like, some people just have to stop gambling, full stop. Not bet on anything, not even buy a raffle ticket, you know?
I'm still on a journey of healing. I think it will be forever there because my gambling was a solution to much bigger problems. And, and there is a whole raft of things that I had to deal with and still deal with today, More about myself keeps getting revealed. And I'm on this wonderful journey of discovery about who I am and what I am. And so I don't think it'll be ever ending because no one's perfect.
It just takes you away from having a relationship with your family as well. And I think that's your family needs that. Your family needs to be cared for and to be loved and not seen that something else is first place. And that's what gambling does. It can take first place in your life. And second and third place is your wife or your kids.
This can happen to anybody. You name it. Well, I was a high school teacher, which, you're supposed to be reasonably smart. I wasn't when it came to gambling, though. There is help there for people who find themselves in the situation I was.
And once you get out of it and get rid of that addict in your head, it's a wonderful feeling.
Because there is more to you. You deserve it. I think that's the most powerful thing I've learned. You deserve it. And despite what you've done, you're not your addiction, and you deserve life. Yep, and life deserves you.